welcome back. It's quite a delight to have you here. Now, like we always do it here at Smart Means Business, what is your attitude all throughout the day? How do you wake up? How do you seize the day? How do you participate? Because this particular day is yours for the taking. Let us do something about it. Let's get into business quotes and be inspired by those ones that tend to have a positive note even when they have challenges. Let's have a positive note coming in. Vision, have passion. You know, the first thing that came into my mind, Andrew, is how do we persist? How do we persist as Uganda in this, with UNOC having all these different taxes just at the point of celebration? How does it persist? Of course, definitely it has a vision. The vision was that Uganda should be self-reliant. Should, of course, we have, as we are doing whatever can be done on getting our oil, but at least let us be as reliant as possible, self-reliant. And now you have all this come in, 148 billion, I believe, yes, dollars coming in and being slapped on where our oil is being stored. We know, of course, we'll have to meet that bill per se. But what can be done with all this being brought in? And you must have a vision, you must have a goal, you must persist. How do you take yourself through such a point where you had not maybe foreseen something like that coming in this respect, in this context?
I would think in the first place, if we are to relate it to the aspect of self-reliancy, for how long will Uganda be in this dependence mode, despite the fact?
Yes.
Now, the trick here is, because being able to participate in this, it partnered with a certain country from company from Bahrain,
yes,
which has it's very established company to make sure that this distribution is done effectively. But this is what I think.
Unexpectedly. That is what the catchword is. Unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Yes.
When I was having an interaction with the head of corporate affairs, last year, one of their key targets is to make sure that they can, this whole aspect of what we call exchange programs, seeing how this company really operates. So, because UNOC is not entirely operating 100% in its own efforts.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's now the sustainability of this. How long can it persist? Is the number of years this contract will be undertaking. So the exchange programs that are happening within, to what degree will the UNOC operatives really be in position to master how this is done? Now, that's the biggest point.
Yes.
We've been talking about corruption all the time, whereby we see things happen in here, but we don't see the effectiveness in that. So I think that's where the persistence is. It's those young men, those young girls that are actually seeing how things are done from the company from Bahrain.
Are you saying they're naive?
No, not being naive, but we've always had this culture of self-pity.
Yes.
In Uganda.
I don't think so. I disagree.
Why?
I disagree. I think because we are resilient as Ugandans, we know for sure we are a landlocked country. Yes, we know for sure that we've had challenges with Kenya before. Oh, Kenyans, we've had challenges with Kenya.
With Kenyans, yeah.
Yes, and even as well, you know, we did not have any particular issues with South Sudan because clearly they were very, very dependent on us. And this is where the bulk of still our produce, our grain, is going to that.
Yeah.
But of course, we've had a run-in, and we should be planning in the eventuality that definitely this happens, because we've had the traders being categorically, you know, put aside to make losses. They just come in and halt. Even when you enter and you pass the border, the borderline, you can still be stopped at any one time. Some have been killed, most have made losses along that way. But we also know that as long as they get, and we're wishing them well as the youngest, really, as a young country, but we should be able to anticipate that at any one time they will be looking at restructuring their country. They will be looking at getting self-reliant. And where do we come in at that? We should have already started making those plans as Uganda. Yes, we do know for sure that we have been coming in from the side of Tanzania to see if we can have alternative routes, and that has been in the pipeline, so that we don't have this heavy reliance on Kenya, which has its tantrums every now and then. But the reality about it is that we are looking for alternatives, and this is where credit must be given. But yes, there must be alternative routes, and I'm just hopeful that the Tanzanian route will work out very well. We have to be hopeful as well that the standard railway will definitely get into play, because the reality about it is that you may have all these countries come on board, but when it gets rough, like right now, when it gets a couple of rough and there's inflation and each country is dealing with its own problems, then you find out that, oh, by the way, let's first put the East African community things on hold and we first consecrate. That this is where the problem is, the challenge.
To me, to add on what you're saying, I would see the aspect of regime change has largely had an impact on some of the policies. And the fact that in Uganda we have one challenge is that, of course, we're having the same leader all throughout, right? These countries are having leaders coming in through. So I'm trying to perceive that these people actually see this. They're like, what kind of a country are we dealing with? I think we need to also look at this other side, because we may think it's just about them trying to protect their internal issues, but the political image of the country itself, Uganda.
Yes.
Because if you take a look at, there is no country. Let me tell you, Tori.
I feel like Papa alone. Do not criticize him.
No, I'm not criticizing Papa, but I'm saying what other people think about him. Yes. Me personally, I may not have a problem with him, but because if I have an issue with, I may be friends with you, but my neighbors have an issue with you. And you are saying, why am I successful?
That has only, Andrew, that has only happened in Rwanda. That has only happened with Rwanda because of the different scribbles and scrabbles that they've had. But when it comes down, you can see still, and let's really look at this briefly. You can still look at the positioning that the big man has in the AU coming in, whether it is coming in to send troops or coming in to mediate in conflict areas. This has been done.
Perhaps I think that's the area of expertise, but let's take a look at the economic
aspect as well.
Economic aspect.
I think he's respected in the region. He is respected, not only just politically, but he has a voice to say, because whether we want it or not, we may not be at 100%, but I think he has kept this ship. He has managed to guide it with his team. He doesn't do this. He may be the vision bearer, like he mentions, he may be the vision bearer, but the reality about it is that he has a team with which he works. Yes, and because of what has been done, maybe not to a degree of 100%. Clearly, there's still gaps in every area. You know, socially, economically, politically, there are gaps everywhere, just like any other country. But I think we must give credit as due. Credit is due to what has been realized so far. Because
in most cases, we measure the country's worth by looking at the income per capita. Yes, in Uganda, we might have the positive figures, but those figures are more of inflated in a certain group of people. They are not evenly distributed. Now that worries Kenya in this way, the partners that are trading, because they know if they are to have that consistent supply of goods from Uganda with a quality that is expected, the individual, because they know these goods are being made by the individuals, of course partnering with different entities to export them to their country. But now they are aware that the policies are not kind of favoring the people to make that quality they expect.
Yes.
So in that way, they will sit back and be like, okay, we are trading with Uganda in this party. That's why most of the agreements we have are kind of temporal. If it's like the European Union, where we see, of course, away from Britain that left, but there is no case you'll ever hear that Sweden is putting a trade restriction on France. I mean, to import a certain, these are contracts that were made ever since this union came together. But we are seeing Kenya is withdrawing every other day. We see Sudan is now I'm happy with ECOWAS. We saw a report where ECOWAS is now having a uniform currency.
Yes.
That only comes when you have established the trade between the region. And with East Africa, because
the reality, the reality is, I don't think there's a smooth line, and Brexit was one of, is something that can show you clearly that this is not only happening on the African continent. The reality about it is that each country has unique issues to deal with.
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
And there's not so much resources. This is post-pandemic period. There's not so much resources. Each country is struggling. All over globally, each country is struggling to get back on its feet. Now, what happens at the same time is the ability to make sure that you get back on your feet internally, but also internally, yes. And each country is struggling to do that really right now, Andrew. But the fact about it is that we also need, we don't need to sever any ties. If at all there is difficulty with Kenya, then there must be other areas within Uganda, other countries in Uganda. There is Tanzania, there is South Sudan. If at all there is a hiccup with South Sudan, can we broaden the nets, yes, and get out into Southern Africa and look for other countries that we can partner with, because they as well have unique places. But what cannot be done is to isolate ourselves. Yes, it's not as if, and that is the reality about it. When it boils down to the East African community, we will be looking at what best can we benefit and who can benefit as well from us, but what best obviously can we benefit from the others. But of course we must be casting out our net much wider. Much wider. Yes, much wider, and this is where the export promotion is going on. Can you export and tap into Saudi Arabia? Can you tap into Turkey right now? Can you tap into the different Canada markets that are there? Yes, we would want to cast our net much higher than this. Okay. Yes, it's very important for survival. Bottom line, it is important for survival. We understand the importance with which it is important to have these blocks. Yes, and maybe even the vision, Pan-African vision, is literally the African continent to be all together as one. But that's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. For as long as our eggs are being blocked at that border, for as long as our eggs are being blocked at that border, and now our oil that we are still celebrating about is being blocked at that, trust me, it's going to take a while to get to some harmony there. But Andrew, let's get back the undertone for this conversation, and we just have maybe around 6 minutes to get to talk about this, is the fact that we were celebrating the strides that have been made. Talking about celebrating, looking at the strides that have been made by women. Yes, socio-economic empowerment programs. I had hinted on earlier that there was, of course, increased participation of women in business development. You have so many women right now getting into business, And remember, the concern by then was what can be done? What can be done? The woman has for long been working day and night, within the home setting. But then others, the feminists are saying, but these efforts are still very necessary, but they are not recognized. They are unpaid. The woman is literally squeezed out of every energy. Can we be able to pay the woman even at home, so that at least she is able to be productive and add, and add to the economy? If at all she's paid her 500,000 to be able to do the home chores and take care of this, then at the end of the day she's going to be able to support because she will buy from someone.
From someone.
Yes, she will go out there and buy from someone. But when it comes down to the benefits, what do you think are the benefits? What have women, actually, what has the country been able to reap from these empowerment programs?
Well, I think even just away from Uganda, it is revealed statistically that for any country to have region balance in economic growth and development, women play quite a vital role in any country in terms of that. Of course, this comes in line with their ability, their entrepreneurial abilities, and the natural creative abilities.
Yes.
That in turn, you know, we see, if we are to take a look at history in Uganda, all the way back from the ancient, because we've had this culturalistic, we have been too culturistic, most especially towards women, that even some of the proverbs that are said within the Uganda setting,
yes,
we are in line of trying to put women down in terms of areas of influence. It could be leadership, but of course now this time around we are taking a look at now them having a say in influencing companies. I mean,
clearly there has been quite a lot of an improvement in decision making.
Exactly.
And political participation, you know, all that as well. It has really done quite a lot. And you get to see the National Women's Council really supporting not only just women entrepreneurship, but those programs down at the grassroots level. Yes, I got to realize in the last discussion that I had with one of the members that it is more or less a holistic look. These women councils down in the villages, yes, really do look at a holistic aspect. They look at the empowerment. They look. It's almost like a full-size buffet. They look at the social bit of it. They look at the implementation, really. For example, when it comes to sending children to school, they have every right and every reason to come out to you and saying, but why aren't you sending your child to school? You know very well, yes, that UPE is there and ABCD and educate you and sensitize you. And if you don't do that, they have every right to go and initiate, actually report the case. Yes, they do have every right. And this is the wonderful part about that participation down at the grassroots level. So I believe when it comes to, and Uganda has done very well, by the way, when it comes to the fact that, you know, when it comes from the leadership downwards, we have quite a lot of representation of women in leadership. Prime Minister, Vice President at one time, we actually have a clean slate when it comes to that.
My question is, because at least you've interacted with women quite often. In your own experience, when you've been taking a look at this, because I've always had issues here, zeroing it down to Uganda.
Yes.
Because if you move across East Africa, all Africa,
yes,
women are actually hardworking. They are taking areas of influence, and their influence is authority, has the authority. You know, there is having influence in terms
but no authority.
But no authority. In your encounter, do you feel like women are...
I know where you're driving to.
I'm not driving that.
Yes.
But you're putting it to the economic side of it, in terms of business.
Yeah.
Are women really proud of this? Do they feel like they would also desire to have authority in their decisions? Or they seem to be so much in a comfort zone in terms of having this attitude that men have to do this? Because to me, it starts with the mindset of a woman from before she becomes a woman, still a girl. If she doesn't have the mindset of being an independent mindset, but dependent mindset.
Yes.
How have you?
So what I'm getting from your question, Andrew, is that you are saying, despite all the socio-economic empowerment programs that are there right now, you have very many, you know, girl children still coming up and getting into transition into young women and older adults, you know, adults still with the mindset that the man should be able to take care of.
That's what I think.
Yes?
That's what I think.
I think both genders bring something. Now, this being a hugely patriarchal society, honestly, we get to see that whether you want it or not, there is still quite a lot of societal norms. Yes, that means, yes, according to culture, according to tradition, a man is supposed to do this, a woman is supposed to do this. Now, we are still embedded quite heavily within that society. Yes, and that is why at the end of the day, those particular norms still have, they have quite a lot. But the reality about that is that we're trying to look at ways in which this can be harmonized. Yes, the rights, equality says both genders, the male and female, literally have equal rights.
Equal rights.
Yes, equal rights. But the thing about it is that even as we are pushing for all this celebration and uptake of these rights here and a recognition as well, you know that someone can have the rights but there's no recognition of that right. Yes, yeah, true, it can happen. True. The reality about it is, how do we harmonize this? How is this balanced? And this is why it is not necessarily a one cut, you know, one cloth or one shoe fits all. You can find one particular family has agreed and said, you know what, you have a better paying job, and why don't I sit back? That is now the man talking. Yes, so yes, you have. It has happened. Yes,
the man says the woman has a better paying job.
You have and both of them sit down. Really, I have seen a family like that, whereby they say they have agreed. Both of them have agreed, and said, why don't we spend much more time with the children, get them homeschooled, since between your job and mine, yours is bringing in much more money. Yes, much more money. Okay. But also we are able to do much more than that. Okay. So instead of taking these kids through different schools and then going through the chains of maids' frustration and all that, why don't you continue? Yes, your work. I will do my work online. With with this little company ABCD, and then homeschool the children. Okay, that has happened. It is happening in Uganda, and within other areas as well. Of course, you do have the males say, "Oh, yes, we have ABCD," and then normally it depends on the communication that you have with your spouse. It really honestly depends down to the communication. These are decisions that someone else cannot come in and say, now let it be. Let it be. If you attempt to go through that phase of let it be, you will have conflict. That relationship or that marriage won't stand. These are things you have to sit down to and really come down and say, you know what, this is what is working. How do we approach this? Yes, but of course we do know that right now things are changing. There is still that sentiment still, and it is hinged on the traditional systems that we have in a society in which we are. But the reality about it is that you have more and more women getting empowered, more and more women in working right now, and you have more and more women coming in and participating and coming in and saying, yes, I will pay the school fees as well. Okay. You have more and more women doing that. You still have others that are saying, no, the money is still for the woman, but you have more and more women. And this discussion actually on some of these gaps, especially when it comes down to attitudes and the societal norms, how do you get that balance? I think this is something that is going to be talked about by the minister in our next discussion coming in from 9 to 10. Please listen in, join us as we get to see how the ministry or the government actually is addressing some of the cyclical gaps that continuously come up in women's socio-economic empowerment programs in Uganda. And amongst that particular discussion, I'm sure we will have something to address what you have just said, Andrew.
I want to get that point, really. I want to feel that.
Who is stressing you? Say,
no one is stressing me.
Tell us, give us the scoop on that. Who is disturbing you, saying you must pay everything?
We know the ability of women when it comes to transforming a country. Yes. If they decide to and be focused. But in Uganda, that's something, because don't you think the feminine side of a woman is interesting? But I think women that take authoritative decisions in terms of politics, social transformation and business, they have to kind of transcend from the feminine aspect and they take onto the masculine aspect. Those are the ones I call leaders. But how many are able to get into that mode, that masculine aspect? Yes. You command something and somebody has no choice but to follow that command and execute.
I think women are natural leaders. Yeah, you don't have to ditch your femininity just to and assume the masculinity just to be able to lead and to lead. That's the misconception about it. you are all woman and you have the ability to lead. And I think some of these stereotypes are the ones that really have to be taken away.
Okay.
Yes, they have. Yes, this is stereotyping that for a woman to be a good leader, then you must be mannish. You must be more masculine. No. That's the mindset about it.
Okay.
You can't be a good leader wherever you are, because we lead naturally. We lead in the home. We lead in the community. Yes, and we are able to lead in whatever positions there. But also, research says that whenever a woman is in a leadership role, she brings all together all the different feminine as well as the so-called masculine attributes to that particular role. And that is why they say women make the best leaders, because they will come and listen in, they will come with empathy, they will come with more direction as well as being able to have the decision. But this is quite an interesting conversation. And you will tell me as well at the back of this where this conversation has come from.
I will tell you.
Yes. We're going to dive straight. We're going to take a very short break and dive straight into entertainment and sports. Please join us 9 to 10 as we get to have insight from the Minister of Energy. Okay, let's
Smart 24, driving business.
Cooking oil like no other makes your meal so sweet and scrumptious. The taste of Uganda, yeah, the taste of Uganda.
Luxury redefined at Seasand Hotel as you indulge in the splendor of elegant living fit for the royalty that you are. Step into comfort, pampering and blissful customer-centric service as you select from our range of comfy, exquisite living quarters furnished to meet with your royal preference. Surrounded by scenic beauty, our tropical setting allows you to escape the glamorous ordeal of city life. Our ambient green gardens will guide you to a place of revitalizing rest. The 3-star restaurant caters to your palate, serving your choice menu ranging from exotic cuisines to local delicacies. Our chefs will serve you full course meals for a truly out-of-this-world culinary experience. Our fully stocked bar to whet your throat, from renowned global brand whisks, brandies, gins, beers and wines to our locally celebrated beverages, you will not lack for any brewage. It's an all-new experience in the East at Seasand Hotel. So visit today at plot 15 to 19 Spire Road, Ginger, or contact us on +256 751 719 960 and +256 785 354 614 for reservations. Seasand Hotels, luxury redefined.
Oh, you see Zizinga. Hey, honey, Zizinga. Zizinga. Oh, what? This is blood. Zizinga. Lydia went invisible. Wakati change down. I need the blood. Hey, Euros for everyone on Go TV. Euros for everyone. Naira. Yeah, people at home watching Euros on Go TV. Euros for everyone. Yeah.
Euro 2024 is for everyone on Go TV. All the 51 games of Europe's